I remember it as if it was just yesterday. An 8-year-old Orly walking into 3rd grade. Learning was really, really difficult for me. And so I was taken out of my classroom with all my friends and put into a much smaller setting, into a resource room. And I felt very self-conscious about it. People telling me, oh, you're not smart enough, you're not fast enough. And those feelings of insecurity, especially at a young age, can really follow you to different points in your life. But one day the teacher walked into class and she gave us a poem and she said, I want you guys to take this poem and I want you to decorate it. So I was 8 years old. I took it, I put it on a piece of pink construction paper and put some sparkles on it. But I didn't just decorate it, I also read it. Not just once, twice, but 50 times, 100 times. And the words of that poem, I didn't realize it back then. I would call upon them at different points in my life to remind me to believe in myself when I was just ready to give up. And they went as follows. If you think you can't do it, you can't. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you'd like to win but think you can't, it's almost a cinch you won't. If you think you'll lose, you're lost. For out in this world we find success begins with a fellow's will. It's all in a state of mind. Life's battles don't always go to the stronger or faster man. For sooner or later, the man who wins is the one who thinks he can. The one who thinks he can. But when you stop believing in your capabilities and people telling you that you can't often enough, the biggest danger is that you come to believe it in yourself. I was a very shy kid. I wouldn't be speaking in front of groups of people, that's for sure. And my insecurity levels were at a record high. And those feelings of insecurity followed me into my high school years. High school, as it is hard enough. You're trying to figure out who you are amidst everybody telling you who you should be. And came my sophomore year of high school. Probably one of the hardest things happened to me in my life and one of the greatest things. And I know it sounds weird that I'm going to say that this is the greatest thing that happened to me. But I believe that had it not happened to me, I don't think I would be the person I am today. At the beginning of my sophomore year, we had a fire in my house. And overnight, my family lost absolutely everything. I mean, we were okay, thank God. I'm one of 5 siblings. But it was 6 years until we all lived back under the same roof again. See, it wasn't just the fire. It was one of those years where everything that could go wrong went wrong. And when you thought that it couldn't get worse, it got worse. My dad had lost his business. I only found out just some years ago how bad the situation was, that there were weeks that my family didn't know how they were going to put food on the table. I was always a positive person, believing that everything happens for a reason. And so I even made light of it. But you see, it does something to you when you see your parents break down, when you see your parents cry. The people that are your strongest support system. And so I didn't want to be a burden on them, so I kept my feelings and emotions hidden from them. My friends didn't know what to say to me, so they would just try and change the subject. And there I was, keeping all of these emotions piled up inside of me. And they just continued to get worse. Until one day I went to bed and I just didn't wake up the next day. The school told all my friends, the school itself knew that for them it was that I had mono. But the truth of the matter is I fell into a very, very, very dark depression. And when I say dark, I mean suicidal dark. I didn't want to go back to school. I didn't even want to live. I was angry at everyone, angry at the world, angry at my friends, angry at my family, angry at God. I didn't feel that there was anything I could actually contribute into the world, because you have to understand, I was a very shy kid, but whether I knew you, didn't know you, if you were absent from school one day, I would take notes from you and bring it to you the next day. Guys, I was home from school for several months, and not one person called. Not one person came by to see if I was okay. And that made me feel like, well, if I wasn't here tomorrow, would anybody care? I mean, would anybody even notice? And it felt like the answer was no. I was forced to go back to school several months later. I wasn't the same kid. I was that kid sitting in the corner, just all in black. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to smile. I didn't care what would happen with my grades. I just didn't care. And then one morning, as I was waking up to go to school, I was in the bathroom and I was looking at myself in the mirror. I was really looking at myself, and the scariest thing happened. I didn't see that little kid, that 4-year-old Orly that dreamed of changing the world, that had so many hopes and aspirations. I didn't see her looking back at me. And to be honest, that scared me more than anything. I had no idea how I was going to pick myself back up. I had let everything go. But I made a promise that morning. It was a promise that I remember every single day till this moment. Promise to be there for people the way that I wish somebody would have been there for me. But more than that, to see people the way that I wish somebody would have seen me. Those next couple of years of high school, I was sort of walking alone, which is no easy thing. But it afforded me the greatest opportunity in the world. It afforded me the opportunity to fall in love with me for me. Not because I wanted to impress this person or the other. I wanted to get into that group of friends. I got a chance to recognize and understand my own value. And in my senior year of high school, we were on a seminar. And the teacher was talking about obstacles. And I did something I never did before. I raised my hand. And the craziest thing happened. Kids that I used to be so super intimidated from were listening to me and then coming to me afterwards and asking me for advice. And what I found was that the more I gave, the more I healed. And the more I gave, the more I healed. I became obsessed and in love with this concept and this idea of giving. Finally, that Orly that was inside of me all along that wanted to share this voice was able to pop out. And I started getting involved in every possible thing I could, whether it be in charity events or mentoring at-risk kids or giving talks, getting involved in different types of work within the community. It's what led me to my years teaching. It's what led me to the work that I do with my nonprofit Life Est Inside, and it's what guides me until this very day. You see, for me, teaching was about empowering my students to see the beauty in themselves so that they can begin to see the beauty in others, reminding them that while the world might be betting against you, if you think you can, you can.